Verbal and mental bewitchment, a topic addressed both in spiritual traditions and in psychic and occult currents, involves the use of words and thoughts to influence, dominate, or cause disturbances in individuals, affecting not only behavior, but also the physical body and the people's spiritual field. The concept of bewitchment, in general terms, refers to the use of external forces to alter a person's natural state, whether on an emotional, psychological, or spiritual level. However, verbal and mental bewitchment is a specific form of psychic manipulation that takes place through a mental channel, in which words loaded with intentions and thoughts become powerful agents of transformation in the reality of human beings. When exploring this topic, it is essential to understand how thoughts and words, which are manifestations of the mind, have the power to create realities and how these energies interrelate with the spiritual universe, directly influencing people's well-being and their connection with the subtlest dimensions of existence. This type of bewitchment, unlike a material or physical spell involving potions or incantations, has an invisible but extremely effective origin. The central focus is on the manipulation of mental energies, which can affect an individual's behavior and shape their perception of the world around them. In this context, it is possible to affirm that words and thoughts have a vibratory resonance that crosses the spiritual and physical planes, causing direct impacts on people's psychic and energetic fields. The improper use of these energies can generate profound disturbances, destabilizing the emotions, relationships, and even the spiritual balance of those affected. This is the mechanism through which verbal and mental bewitchment manifests itself, not only as a form of external control, but also as an alteration of the person's internal reality, who can find themselves captured by thoughts and words that are not their own, but which, when absorbed and internalized, begin to govern your mind and behaviors. One of the most powerful tools of mental bewitchment is the creation of thought forms. These thought forms are constructed from the psychic energy generated by our own thoughts, which, once emanated, solidify into energy forms that can have a life of their own as they are fueled by our emotions and intentions. When a thought is repeated frequently or fueled by intense feelings, it can acquire form and consistency, becoming an energetic entity that actively interferes with the person, whether as something beneficial or harmful. Thought forms are, therefore, spiritual entities created by ourselves, which gain strength as we feed them with our mental energy. In the case of bewitchment, these thought forms can be directed at another person or a group, seeking to alter their emotional, mental, or even physical state, leading them to adopt specific behaviors or to be affected by spiritual illnesses that they do not understand. Evil thought forms, for example, can arise when a person carries feelings of hatred, revenge, or a desire for manipulation, and these energies, if not dissociated and transformed, end up creating an energetic image, which can manifest itself concretely in someone else's life. Once an evil thought form is generated, it begins to interact with the victim's energy field, creating a field of vibration that influences the person's thoughts, emotions, and, ultimately, behavior. Thought forms can be projected consciously as a spiritual or mental weapon of control, but they can also be created unconsciously as a result of continuous, destructive thoughts. In this process, the victim of the bewitchment may begin to feel mentally overwhelmed, as if their own thoughts and actions were invaded by something foreign and external. This process can cause a feeling of loss of control, where the person no longer knows what is really theirs, creating a cycle of self-sabotage and mental destabilization. These thought forms also have the ability to unite with others of the same nature, creating an amplified energy that is more difficult to dissipate. This phenomenon is an example of the interaction of the psychic energies of different individuals, which connect and create egregores or collectives of thought forms that have a much greater capacity for manipulation. Thus, a simple envy or desire for mind control can become an immeasurable force, affecting not only the target person, but also their environment and the people around them. This is why it is said that mental and verbal bewitchment can become something viral, capable of expanding and increasing in strength, so that victims cannot escape this cycle of psychic influence. Therefore, self-awareness and the ability to dissolve these thought forms are fundamental to protecting oneself from such influences. spiritual practices such as meditation, prayer, and strengthening one's own mental energy can help dissolve these negative fields and protect the mind against energetic invasions. The power of words is something that transcends cultural and spiritual conventions, being a fundamental concept in several religious and esoteric traditions. Words, according to these beliefs, are charged with a vibrational energy that can create or destroy. The power of the verb, in the sense that the word can be a tool of creation, destruction, healing, or curse, is deeply rooted in ancient cultures and spiritual teachings. In the context of verbal bewitchment, words become spells, capable of altering the course of an individual's life, whether for good or for evil. The cursed word, or the word of envy, uttered with a conscious or unconscious desire to cause harm, acts like a spiritual arrow that passes through a person's aura and finds its target in the heart and mind. When someone utters a word with a negative emotional charge or with the intention of harm, this act generates a thought form that connects both the sender and the receiver of the word. The person casting a verbal spell not only transmits a message, but also emits an energetic vibration that reverberates in the victim's field. This vibration, if not dissipated, can create a profound impact on the affected person's emotions and thoughts, affecting their self-esteem, their emotional health, and even their ability to make sensible decisions. Verbal bewitchment, therefore, is not restricted to the simple act of speaking words, but to the energetic impact that these words have on the psychic and spiritual reality of the other. At the same time, when a person is the target of a verbal spell, they begin to experience a series of disturbances in their energy field, as if something is forcing their mind and emotions to follow a path of destruction. Words, when associated with clear and strong intentions, gain impressive power. They can, for example, condition an individual to think negatively about themselves, as happens when words of disqualification or curse are used. The energy generated by these words can become so strong that it overrides discernment and reason, inducing the victim to make poor decisions and act against their own interests. This happens because, at an unconscious level, the mind begins to absorb these words and transform them into beliefs that end up shaping behavior. When a person internalizes a word of curse or constant criticism, they begin to see themselves through the distorted lens of the word, starting to believe in their own inability or inferiority. The verbal spell then manifests as a cycle of self-sabotage and a limitation of one's own potentials. The concept of egregore, or collective energy field, is another important element in the study of verbal and mental bewitchment. The egregore is an energy field that arises from the sum of the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of several people who share a common goal, whether consciously or unconsciously. This energetic field can form around groups, environments, or even ideologies, and is capable of influencing the individual energy of each person within the group. In the case of mental bewitchment, the thought forms generated by an individual can be in tune with other similar thought forms, forming a collective field of energy that can amplify the strength of the spell. This explains why, when a group of people share negative emotions or limiting beliefs, the collective energy generated by that group can profoundly affect the lives of community members. The collective energy field can be something both positive and negative. When the energies shared by a group are high, as in the case of spiritual groups that seek peace, harmony, and well-being, they create a vibrating atmosphere that enhances the positive aspects of people. On the other hand, when the group shares negative energies such as anger, fear, envy, or hatred, this collective field can become a field of powerful and destructive influence, affecting everyone involved. Mental bewitchment in a collective context can be much more difficult to combat, as the negative energy generated by a group can spread and affect several individuals simultaneously. This is why people who live in dense or negativity-laden environments can feel physically and psychologically exhausted, as if they are continually being influenced by a destructive energy field. This collective energetic field is, therefore, a form of amplification of the energy of bewitchment, in which the words and thoughts of several people end up creating an invisible web of negative vibrations that affects all those within that field. This process can be observed in various situations, such as toxic work environments, extremist religious communities, or social groups that cultivate negative feelings towards certain individuals or groups. Collective energies, when fueled by the repetition of negative thoughts and words, create a dense psychic field that can result in mental and emotional pressure on the individuals involved. Mental and verbal bewitchment not only influences a person's immediate actions, but can also cause profound damage to their long-term mental, emotional, and spiritual health. When someone is struck by a mental or verbal spell, whether consciously or unconsciously, that spell can begin to manifest its effects on the victim's beliefs, behavior, and emotions. The first consequence generally observed is the change in the person's emotional state. She may begin to feel constantly anxious, depressed, lost, or afraid, without understanding the origin of these feelings. In many cases, the person is unaware that they are being influenced by external forces, which makes it even more difficult to understand what is happening. Furthermore, mental bewitchment can lead to changes in the person's behavior and even physical health. Often, the psychological symptoms caused by this type of bewitchment can manifest themselves as somatic disorders, such as headaches, excessive tiredness, insomnia, or even chronic illnesses that have no medical explanation. This happens because the mind and body are deeply interconnected, and the negative emotions generated by mental bewitchment can create blockages and imbalances in the physical body, manifesting as illnesses. People affected by mental bewitchment may also begin to make bad or harmful decisions, as if they are being guided by an invisible force, leading to financial, relational, or spiritual problems. This can result in a vicious cycle of self-sabotage that perpetuates itself as the individual becomes stuck in a negative pattern of thinking and behavior. Although verbal and mental bewitchment can have devastating effects, it is possible to strengthen the mind and spirit to protect itself from these external influences. One of the most effective forms of protection is the constant practice of mental and emotional vigilance. The cultivation of positive thoughts and the practice of self-observation are essential to keep the mind clear and free from the negative energies that can be thrown at us. Furthermore, spiritual practices, such as prayer, meditation, and the use of positive affirmations, are powerful tools for strengthening the energetic and spiritual field against verbal and mental spells. When a person dedicates themselves to developing their spiritual connection and clearing their thoughts of negative patterns, they create a protective barrier around them, a strong and insurmountable energetic field. Visualization techniques can also be effective in creating an energetic armor that repels external influences. Daily meditation and mindfulness practices help cultivate a state of heightened consciousness, which serves as a protection against psychic attacks. Furthermore, the use of smoke, such as burning sacred herbs, and the use of protective crystals can also be important allies in protecting against mental bewitchment. Ultimately, verbal and mental bewitchment, although a practice of great power, finds its limit when the person decides to strengthen his mind and spirit. Mastery of one's own mental energies and the constant practice of maintaining a high vibration not only protect, but also allow a person to free themselves from the negative influence of other energies. By cultivating thoughts of love, peace, and compassion, we can create a spiritual shield that prevents us from being influenced by destructive words and thoughts. If you are interested in how verbal and mental bewitchment can influence our lives and how to protect ourselves from these energies, subscribe to the channel and like the video. Together we can explore these themes and seek balance and spiritual protection. Don't miss the next videos.